Hello and welcome to my channel. I hope you enjoy this story. I'm going to try and upload a new story each day. The Echoing Screams. Holly Arnold stood at the mouth of the cave, a foreboding darkness that seemed to breathe, its damp air seeping into her bones. The Isle of Wight wasn't known for caves like this one. She'd been intrigued by the rumors, of course, a cavern hidden deep within the cliffs, only accessible during low tide. But none of the whispered tales had prepared her for the aura of dread that surrounded the cave's entrance. The team consisted of 4 people: Holly, her best friend Kate, a local historian named Marcus, and Tom, a seasoned spelunker with a penchant for finding his way through tight spots. They'd heard the legend of the cave from Marcus, who insisted that within it lay secrets buried beneath centuries of dust. According to him, local fishermen claimed they could sometimes hear strange noises like muffled screams carried on a wind from the direction of the cave. It was an irresistible call to adventure. Holly asked, checking her flashlight and pack one more time. "Let's get this over with," Kate replied. Marcus nodded, looking almost excited, while Tom gave a thumbs up. "All set, just remember to follow my lead, and don't stray from the path." His tone was serious, but his eyes gleamed with the thrill of danger. They descended into the cave, their flashlights casting sharp beams across the jagged walls. The air grew colder as they walked, and the sounds of the outside world quickly faded, replaced by an oppressive silence that settled around them like a heavy cloak. After 20 minutes, they reached a cavernous chamber, its ceiling lost in shadow. The only sounds were their footsteps and the occasional drip of water echoing through the darkness. Holly turned to say something to Marcus, but her words died in her throat when a blood-curdling scream pierced the air. It was distant, muffled, but unmistakably human. Kate asked, her face pale, eyes wide. Yeah, Holly replied. It sounded like it came from deeper inside. Marcus stepped forward. "We have to find out what's down here that screamed. It wasn't natural." Tom hesitated. "This isn't part of the plan. We should leave," but Holly was already moving. The others had no choice but to follow her, their flashlights trembling in their hands as they delved deeper into the unknown. The cave twisted and turned, narrow passages opening into chambers that seemed to defy reason, their walls covered in strange, ancient carvings. Holly traced her fingers over them, feeling a chill as she realized the markings resembled twisted faces, mouths open in eternal screams. Another scream echoed, this one closer. Holly's breath caught as she realized it was coming from just ahead. "Wait," she whispered, but Tom had already moved forward. He stepped into another chamber, and his scream joined the echoes in an instant. Holly rushed in after him, only to stop short. The chamber was filled with rows of statues, each one disturbingly lifelike, their faces frozen in expressions of terror. In the center stood Tom, staring at one of the statues, his face pale as a ghost. "You're there, people," he whispered. Kate asked, but Holly already understood. The statues weren't carved. They were people, somehow petrified in the moment of their final screams. "Or who?" Marcus stammered, looking around as if the answer would reveal itself. A low growl filled the chamber, reverberating through the walls and sending a shiver down Holly's spine. She turned, her flashlight catching a movement in the shadows, a shape that defied explanation, shifting and swelling as if made of darkness itself. "Run," she yelled. They bolted back through the twisting corridors, the screams growing louder, as if the petrified souls were somehow alive, crying out for help. Holly's heart pounded as she ran, but she didn't dare look back, not even when she heard the others behind her falter. Finally, they reached the mouth of the cave, the dim light of the outside world a beacon of hope. Holly stumbled out onto the rocky shore, gasping for air, and turned to find only Kate beside her. Marcus and Tom were gone, swallowed by the darkness and the screams. Holly stared back into the cave, the chilling sounds of the screams still echoing in her ears. She knew they had uncovered something ancient, something that should have remained hidden. And as the tide began to rise, she realized that the cave was sealing itself off, as if to protect the world from the horrors within. But the echoes of the screams would haunt her forever, a reminder that some mysteries are best left undiscovered. For days after escaping the cave, Holly couldn't shake the echoing screams from her mind. Every night, As she tried to sleep, the harrowing cries would ring in her ears, pulling her back to that moment when they had seen Tom and Marcus disappear into the dark abyss. She knew she had to go back, but this time she would return alone. Kate refused to talk about the experience. She moved back to the mainland, leaving the Isle of Wight behind, trying to forget the horrors of that day. Holly couldn't blame her. Some things are better left forgotten. But Holly wasn't one to let go. Her friends were lost, and she needed answers. She waited until the next low tide, standing alone at the cave's entrance. The familiar sense of dread washed over her as she stepped back inside, the air colder than she remembered, thick with the scent of damp earth and something metallic, a hint of blood, perhaps. She carefully retraced her steps, following the same path through the narrow passages, her flashlight flickering as if fighting against the oppressive darkness. Holly had equipped herself with supplies, this time extra batteries, ropes, even a small camera. If she found anything, she'd document it, and if she encountered the shadowy figure again, she'd be ready. As she reached the chamber where Tom and Marcus had disappeared, Holly felt the chill that seemed to seep through her skin, freezing her to the core. The statue stood exactly as she remembered, faces twisted in terror. She steeled herself and stepped closer, noticing something she hadn't seen before, a series of symbols carved into the floor around the statues, forming a strange circle. She crouched down, tracing her fingers over the symbols, feeling a peculiar warmth emanate from them. Her heart raced as she realized the symbols were shifting under her touch, like they were alive, rearranging themselves into new patterns. Holly took a step back, her flashlight flickering again, and a low growl reverberated through the chamber. She turned and found herself face to face with the shadowy entity, its form flickering like smoke, eyes glowing with an unnatural light. She took a deep breath, feeling an unnatural calm wash over her as she confronted it. "What are you?" she demanded, her voice steady. The entity seemed to pulse, its form expanding and contracting like a living darkness. And then, to her horror, it spoke, a voice like shards of glass scraping against metal. "I am the guardian of the forgotten. Those who enter here are bound to the echoes of their fear, eternal guardians of secrets best left undisturbed." Holly swallowed. "Why them?" she asked. "Why did you take them?" The guardian's eyes flickered. "They trespassed where they should not, they were warned, yet they continued, they heard the screams, and now they are part of them." She glanced at the statues, the shadows, the symbols on the ground. The patterns, they must be a key. If she could break the circle, maybe she could release her friends. Or perhaps she could trap the guardian. Ignoring the looming presence, Holly knelt down and began scratching at the symbols, rearranging them to disrupt the flow of whatever dark energy pulsed within the chamber. She worked quickly, her movements growing frantic as the guardian's shadow loomed closer, its growls vibrating through the very ground beneath her. "Stop!" the guardian roared, but Holly pressed on, chanting words she'd read from Marcus's old notes. As she completed the final symbol, a flash of light filled the chamber, blinding her. She stumbled back, covering her eyes as the ground beneath her shook violently, as if the very cave was coming alive. She heard the guardian's shriek, a sound so piercing that it seemed to split her skull in two. When the light subsided, Holly opened her eyes to find the chamber empty. The statues were gone, as was the guardian. In their place stood Marcus and Tom, dazed but alive, blinking against the sudden brightness. Tom asked, his voice shaky. "What happened? I think I broke the curse," Holly replied. They didn't waste any time getting out of the cave. As they reached the mouth of the cave, the tide was rising quickly, as if the sea itself was eager to seal the darkness within once again. They stood in silence for a moment, looking back at the cave. Holly felt a strange sense of finality, as if the place had been laid to rest at last. But she knew that some part of it would remain with her forever, a reminder that some mysteries are best left alone, hidden in the shadows where they belong. As they walked away, the echoes of the screams faded into the distance, leaving Holly with a newfound respect for the darkness and the knowledge that she had faced it and lived to tell a tale. But deep down, she knew that the guardian was still there, waiting for the next soul foolish enough to wander into the darkness. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please don't forget to like, and even better, like and subscribe. Thank you very much, and I hope you have had a great day.